naye ng'evudde bukeddeya. Agiwandiise simanyi oba yoyo naye eyemulugunyiza y'omu ku abadde baagala okwesimbawo ku kifo ekyo. So naye eky'omukisa omulungi nti wano tubaddewo ne ssentebe w'akakiiko k'ebyokulonda mwennyini Mwami Katana, ndowooza nti looya wanu NUP, yamubuuziza ku mukyalo oyo n'amugamba ensonga eyo eri mu kkooti, ezo ensonga ziri mu kkooti, talina nnyo kyamaanyi kyasobola kuzogerako. Kati nange nziramu omulanga gwe gumu nti eyo ensonga bw'ebanga yatwalibwa mu kkooti, kkooti yejja okulamula essalewo ekyenkomeredde eddembe ly'abannamawulire okukola emirimu gyabwe nga tebakugiddwa kya nkizo nnyo mu kulonda okw'amazima n'obwenkanya. Mwe ab'amawulire mmwe mutambula buli wamu ku rallies zonna eziba zikubiddwa aba presidential candidate bonna ne muwuliriza biki bye basuubiza, banaabibatuusaako batya, mu makubo ki? So ne mukuba tooki mu manifesto za buli eyeesimbyewo. Nsonga ki ze basinga okuteekako essira? Ne mukuŋŋaanya amawulire ago ne mugatuusa ku balonzi, kuba kati nga presidential candidate buli omu amukubako akalulu. Kati bw'aba oba alirira omuntu ow'ebulambuuli, ye aba yeesiga munnamawulire okumutuusaako biki candidate oyo byayogedde, biki byasuubiza. So bwe wabaawo oba ba candidate abali incumbent kati nga President Museveni, mwe ab'amawulire mwe mutegeeza eggwanga nti bino bye president bye yasuubiza luli era bino byasobodde okutuukako. Kati sikowa kaadi eyo ne mugituusa mu batuuze, mu balonzi. So ekyo ensonga nkulu nnyo, y'ensonga lwaki olwaleero mu kwogera kwange nagambye nti ab'amawulire baweebwe eddembe lyabwe okusaka amawulire, okutuuka buli awali public function oba olukuŋŋaana oluteesa ku nsonga ez'abantu, buli munnamawulire aweebwa omukisa okutuuka awali olukuŋŋaana bwe lutyo, oba event yonna buli ekigenda mu maaso, buli munnamawulire aweebwe omwagaanya okutuuka awantu awo awali abakulembeze aba buli ngeri ku mitendera gyonna biki bye boogedde, kubanga ffe abanene ffe tukola amawulire. So kati bwe nkugira munnamawulire yenna okujja wano, abasigadde eyo eka abatuuze tebajja kumanya biki bye njogedde wano mu Sheraton. So y'ensonga lwaki nkubira omulanga ebitongole bya gavumenti byonna ku mitendera gyonna, abakulembeze bonna, bannabyabufuzi, abakulembeze mu civil service, abakulembeze ab'ennono, bannaddiini, bonna basse ekitiibwa mu ddembe ly'abamawulire era baleme kubakugira nga bakola emirimu gyabwe. On behalf of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, to welcome you to this high-level national dialogue convened under the theme Towards 2026, Safeguarding Rights, Fostering Trust, and Building Peaceful Elections. This is not just another conference. It is a moment of national self-reflection. It is a moment to ask not what the 2026 elections will do to us, but what they will reveal about us. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, an election is not merely a calendar event. It is a mirror. It reflects the soul of a nation. It reflects the nation's maturity. It reflects the nation's anxieties. It reflects the nation's hopes and ultimately the depth of the nation's respect for human dignity. Distinguished guests here today, this dialogue is timely, not because elections are near, but because trust is fragile. And without trust, even a technically perfect election can feel illegitimate. As you all might know, elections are not upheld by ballot boxes. They are upheld by the belief that every citizen matters equally, and that people can go to an election without fear. That is why today's conversation must not be about winners or losers. It must be about the preservation of Uganda's democratic soul. Ladies and gentlemen, the Uganda Human Rights Commission stands here not as an observer, but as a constitutional guardian. Our mandate is not partisan. It is not ideological. It is moral. Our mandate is anchored in the conviction that every Ugandan, regardless of region, age, gender, ability, orientation, identity, belief or status, must never feel invisible in their own country and democratic processes. Free and fair elections are not just about procedure. They are about rights, duties, responsibilities, and peaceful inclusion before, during, and after the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to briefly highlight the work the Commission has been undertaking toward not to react to crises, but to prevent them before they occur. We have conducted hotspot mapping nationwide to identify districts and communities most vulnerable to tension, misinformation, and rights violations in the context of the 2026 elections. In August, we led a stakeholder review of Uganda's Universal Periodic Review, human rights commitments, ensuring that electoral actions remain aligned with international obligations. Our regional deployments are ongoing, working alongside security, local leaders, civil society organizations, and cultural institutions to reinforce preventive dialogue, not post-conflict response. We have already begun early, real-time monitoring of the pre-election environment, and I can say confidently, a peaceful 2026 is possible if all of us choose responsibility over recklessness. All this shows that the Uganda Human Rights Commission is not waiting for election day to protect rights. That work started way back. Human rights do not begin at the ballot box. They begin with tone, conduct, and intent. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda has entered a new political moment. We now have more independents contesting than candidates from any single political party. This had never happened before. This is not weakness, it is a message that citizens are demanding voice beyond structures and representation beyond labels. It tells us that inclusion and trust are no longer requests, they are conditions. Our responsibility is not to fear this evolution, but to guide it peacefully, to ensure that those who feel excluded do not resort to confrontation, and those in power do not fear accountability. Distinguished guests, an election where every Ugandan feels seen and heard is already a victory, even before the results are announced. This is why language matters, security posture matters, media framing matters, civic education matters, timely justice matters. Above all, The humility of power matters, and the responsibility of citizens matters most. We cannot speak of peace after tension. We must secure peace before conflict. That is the purpose of this dialogue. The Uganda Human Rights Commission believes that dialogue is not a tactic, it is infrastructure. The strongest foundation of national stability is not force, it is trust. And trust is only possible when citizens feel both heard and safe. I want at this moment to thank our security agencies and the Electoral Commission for managing this initial phase of the presidential campaigns in a peaceful and calm manner. So, ladies and gentlemen, let this dialogue today be not defensive, but visionary. Let us move beyond fear-based planning toward value-based leadership, because in the end, a peaceful election is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of dignity for all. Lest I forget, following the recent occurrences, I thought I should say this, that we at the Uganda Human Rights Commission affirm that a free and independent media is a critical part of a democratic election. We therefore call on all institutions of government and all stakeholders to work with all media houses without discrimination. No journalist should be denied access to any public event. All voices should be heard. I should also add that all media should be impartial, professional, and balanced in their coverage and communication. I want to thank you for choosing dialogue over distance, preparation over panic, and partnership over polarization. Finally, I have the honor to declare this dialogue open.